This has to be one of my favorite clips, and based on the video you just saw, our next guest landed here at Cologne Messe in Germany to talk all things airborne. I'm super thrilled to introduce you the head of Microsoft Flight Simulator, Jörg Neubrand, and also the CEO of Azure Studio, Sebastian Floch. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Maxi. It's great to be back here at Gamescom,
right?
In beautiful Cologne, in person. Let's go.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you. And I heard you brought something special with you today.
Yes, we did. We thought we have to rise to the occasion and do something special, and we had to come up with something new. So for the first time, we're doing something called City Update, which essentially means we made 5 new photogrammetry cities here in the area, and we have a trailer, so let's take a look.
This looked incredible, Jörg. I think I even saw 5 soccer stadiums. I definitely saw BVB, Cologne. I wonder if we have any Cologne fans. You're a Cologne fan?
I'm maybe a little guilty. I'm a big Bundesliga fan, and my favorite club is 1. FC Köln. so happy to put it into a video. But
Chad is cheering. I hear it till here. But yeah, really incredible, amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, photogrammetry is awesome. So just to explain, we flew all this last year. So basically we have planes flying really low, taking a photograph a second. So we have millions of photographs. Out of that we built these 3D cities. And so it's beautiful. And I hope the Germans love it a little bit. But that's not the only thing that we did for Germany. So when we go into a region, we try to do a regional plane. We call those local legends. It's a plane that is not that well known in the world, but it's known in the country. So last year for Gamescom, we actually launched the Junkers U-52, which is my personal favorite plane. And for this year, we said, what are we going to do to top this? And we are taking the sort of the father of the Junkers U-52. It's the Junkers F-13, which was the first metal transport plane in the world. So it actually started airlines, that one. And yeah, so we actually have a trailer. So let's take a look.
trailer, the music, it really, you're just bringing a beautiful piece of history to life. So thank you so much for that. And I'm wondering, when you are choosing a plane like the Junkers F-13, like, what is the process like to make it as authentic as possible? I'm assuming you can't just like travel back in time and talk to the German engineer Hugo Juncker himself.
Time travel, Seb. It's a new feature. We need to put that in the flight sim. No, seriously. So it's a ton of research. The first thing we do is, are there any surviving aircraft? So this plane is from 1922, and we looked, and there are pieces. So we first contact all the museums where the pieces are. And so in this case, the German museum, Deutsche Museum in Munich, has an original cockpit. They had it in storage. We told them what our plan were. They're like, we'll bring it out of storage. So we scanned that in down to the millimeter. And then they also had a replica, so we've scanned the exterior. And then there's a company, the Junkers company celebrated the 100-year anniversary of this plane just recently, and they built 3 replicas. So we talked to that team as well, and they let us scan all the new instruments, and they had people who fly that. So they gave us feedback on the flight model and everything to make sure that it's perfect. So it takes a ton of people, but it's great fun.
So does that mean when you, for example, decide on a new plane to bring back, you have a dedicated internal team that will look after it, or do you bring some outside people in as well?
We bring outside people in. So this particular plane is actually made by a German engineer, a software engineer. His name is Oliver Moser. And he works with the German Museum and a whole bunch of other people to really get it right. And the curators of those museums, they live those planes. That's what they do in their life, right? So they know everything about everything. We can ask them any questions. So that's the process with old aircraft. And with new aircraft, Seb is actually oftentimes traveling.
Yeah. Just last summer, we visited a school to fly on the gimbal Cabri G2. When we do an aircraft, we make it extremely realistic. We go capture audio data, flight data, visual data, and we test the aircraft with engineers from the manufacturers or even test pilots.
And I mean, that sounds incredible, but what even more incredible is Flight Sim is literally turning 40 this year. Like, I'm 38. I can't even believe there is a game that is older than me. No, but it's really amazing. It's a milestone. And you announced at the Xbox Bethesda showcase that there will be a 40th anniversary edition. Before we dive into that one, what does it feel like to run Microsoft's longest gaming franchise? Do you have any key elements that you could share?
Yeah, I mean, it's like we're a little bit in awe, right? We're living history. We feel very thankful. We always say we're standing on the shoulders of giants. Bruce Ardwick made the first flight sim. He invented the genre. We try to stay very true to that fundamental vision. And I would say that what stands out to me is the fans. We talk to them all the time. There's people that have been with flight sim for 40 years, so they're in their 80s. They know everything, and they're very vocal and active, and that's what makes it fun.
When you're talking about the community, what have they been asking for the 40th anniversary?
Yeah, so they have a lot of requests. Two that stood out for us was helicopters and gliders. And Seb and his awesome team at Asobo did a bunch of work. So Seb, just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so helicopters and gliders, they both are very specific and they require a lot more accurate simulation of the airflow around the aircraft. So for example, for helicopters, we have the gimbal Cabri G2. We simulate 1,000 surfaces of the helicopter instead of just one, which was the previous helicopter model. And we have to simulate also the airflow around the helicopter because the rotor is what makes the helicopter fly, and it pushes the air downwards. So it creates very complex airflow movements. To make it easier for people to understand how this worked, we have added a visualization so people can turn on and off a tool that allows to see how the air flows around the helicopter. And you see the air really, how it creates vortices and how it creates turbulences around the helicopter. And so there's very important effects that account when you fly in helicopter. One of these is translational lift. Translational lift is when the helicopter goes forward, it's easier for it to catch the air and climb up. And we actually flew the gimbal in July, and it's very strong, the effect. When you fly, you go forward, and as soon as you go forward, you get a lot of lift, and it really goes up. Yeah. Another effect we have is the ground effect. When the propeller, when the rotor pushes the air down, it's for the helicopter like climbing a ladder that always goes down. And when you go closer to the ground, the air is blocked by the ground. It goes down slower, and the helicopter is more efficient at climbing up.
So does that make, just a question, like, because you said July and it's very hot, that makes a difference, right?
Oh yeah. The Gimbal G2 has enough power to easily climb vertically when it's cold, but in July when we flew, it was 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and we couldn't even go up vertically. We had to go up forward.
And another thing you said, it sounds very dangerous. This like this blade flapping. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah.
I don't have any aircraft knowledge this deep, but it sounds like it's a baby bird's first fly. I don't know.
Almost, it feels like wings, so the helicopter physics is really very complex. We had to push it up from 100 hertz to 1000 hertz, so just to capture a rotor going around, because it spins so fast. And flapping is when the helicopter wants to go left, it needs to push on the left side, so the rotor goes up and down and up and down. It actually resonates when it turns around, but everything is offset by about 90 degrees because it's also soft, right? It takes time for the rotor to bend and push the helicopter on the other side. One important effect is the vortex effect with the ring vortex. When the helicopter spins, when the helicopter rotor spins, it creates a vortex. When you go down, it goes into its own airflow, its own vortex, and it's very hard for it to climb at that moment.
I love these deets. I could talk forever about this, but I think the most important question now is, could you explain a little bit what is the difference between a glider and all the other aircrafts? Like,
yeah, very important. A glider, most of the gliders don't have a way to go up in the air, so they need to find a way to take off. So they have either a tow plane or they will have a winch, which is going to launch them into the air. And once you're up there, if you want to stay in the air, you need to find places where the air goes up. And so experienced pilots will know where to find updrafts. But we added a system for anyone to see them in the environment, so you can see the air flowing up, and it's easier to find where that happens. The pilots can then fly in the environment, go up. It allows you. The glider has a very long glide distance, but when there's updraft, it can stay in the air for hours, basically, as long as there's sunlight and as long as it heats up the air. And it makes it very fun. You can glide along mountains, on the hills where everything is south exposed, goes up, and so it makes it a very complex and enjoyable experience with its visualization.
You spent clearly a lot of time in this. Have you shown this to any pilots or other people outside?
Yeah, for example, the helicopter simulation, we show that to instructors of the same helicopter model, and they flew with it, compared it to the real-life helicopter. They were super impressed by how realistic this is, how it reproduces exactly the flight of the helicopter in all the different conditions.
And for the gliders, we're actually working with a studio called Flight Sim Studio. They're glider pilots, they know tons about this. So yeah, we look for experts just to make it right.
So since the instructors were so impressed, would you think that the community would be equally impressed?
Yeah, we've been showing this a little bit, the visualization tools and all that. And in the past, like our last flight sim was called Flight Sim 10. It was basically a helicopter was a box with a single point. Now SEP has thousands of points. The physics simulation is out of this world. Nobody's ever seen anything like this before. And they are over the moon. So they can't wait.
They can't wait. So I loved hearing about helicopters and gliders and planes. Do you have any other aircrafts coming to the 40th anniversary edition?
Yeah, so there's actually the third big question from the community was it's called True to Life airliner. That means, airliners are hugely complex. They have thousands of buttons. And True to Life means that every button does something. So we work with a team, they're called InnyBuilds. They're experts. They're doing an A310 Airbus. And I think the community can't wait. I mean, those things are typically just pay-wear, and we now put it into the base sim. I think it's like a gift. Like, the whole idea of the 40th anniversary edition is like, it's a box of chocolate. Here's some gifts.
I like chocolate.
I like chocolate.
What I like more is actually trailers. Do we have one?
We do. So just to speak to the rest of so we also want to celebrate aviation. Aviation, when you think about it, it's 120 years, and we have 40 of that. So it's like, let's connect those things together. So we picked some of the classic planes from the 1903 Wright Flyer, and we spent like 5 decades all the way to 1940s. And we do have a trailer for that. And let's go.
Well, it looks like we have a few more surprises in this trailer, and we have some planes in there that we didn't see before.
That is exactly true. So there is a Curtiss JN4 Jenny that's from 1915. It's actually the plane, they made thousands of these, and it's the plane that everybody in, like literally America and also in Europe trained. So that's when airplanes really took off, around that time, and that plane is at the center of all that. Then the next plane we added was the Grumman Goose 21A. Beautiful plane. It's famous because it shuffled Hollywood famous people to Catalina Island and places like that with waterplanes. So it's lots of luminaries. So and a lot of them are left because, you know, honestly, wealthy people had those planes. And then at the very end, I don't know if you saw that huge plane. That's the Hughes H-4 Hercules. It's better known as the Spruce Goose. So that's Howard Hughes's, you know, he was a big, ambitious guy. So he said, I'm going to build the biggest plane ever made. And forever and ever, this was the biggest plane in the world. And it only flew once for 20 seconds. And we worked very closely with the museum. There's a museum in Oregon called Evergreen Museum. It's part of the Smithsonian organization. And they have the plane. So they let us in there, take photographs. They gave us tons and tons of feedback. And they're so happy because this is going to be the first time the Spruce Goose really flies. That's going to be cool.
That is really, really amazing. I'm not sure if that's the one, but I want to touch a little bit on the legacy, and maybe this is some of the moments that captured this. 40 years of flight sim. What has fans coming back to the flight simulator like every day?
To me, I mean, we talk about this as a team all the time. To me, it really is like the fundamental truth is that the flying is a human dream. And it's been a human dream for a long time. I honestly think people looked at the sky, looked at the birds and said, man, you know, I wonder what that looks like. And the dream, when Bruce Artwick started all this, the dream was go anywhere, look at anything, see it from that very unique perspective of flying. And we stayed true to that. The franchise stayed true to that. And I think that dream is very much alive and still shared. And now with this new version, like it used to be we didn't have enough data. We couldn't really, the planet didn't really look like the planet. When we started this, we had 4 petabytes of data, which is 4,000 terabytes, a lot. And the cloud. So we now suddenly could actually show every house, every building. We have 1.5 billion houses. We have 3 or 4 trillion trees. So we have literally every house and every tree on the planet. And everything looks right. So what people are doing now is what I call digital tourism. So there were always people interested in planes, and now people are also interested in the world. And let's just look at everything and visit it. And I think that's a new dimension that we've added that brings in new people to this hobby, and it's a beautiful thing.
So, Sebastian, what's your experience in this?
I mean, aviation is so rich. It's 120 years of constant innovation. There's so many different things to discover, so many planes, so many aircraft, so many helicopters. It's just very vast to explore. And then the playground is the planet, right? It's huge. You have so many cities, millions of cities. You have so many countries. You can go travel, prepare travels. There's just so vast. There's way more than 40 years of stuff to discover.
I have one question for you both, because I want to know, which is your favorite city to fly over?
That's a very good question. So I really like Sydney.
All right.
Because I've never been, and I want to go because I saw it in flights. And I actually landed everywhere under the Bay Bridge and whatever the bridge is called. Awesome. I need to go in the real world. Yeah.
What's yours, Sebastian?
It's got to be San Francisco.
San Francisco.
We've been there.
Mine is Seoul. Like, I've never been there. Korea. Like, I want to fly over that.
I spent a month in South America. I've never been to South America. I flew around for a month. I now have a sense what Suriname looks like. I had no earthly idea, right? So, but it actually sort of this itch to travel, especially during the pandemic. I couldn't go anywhere. That really helped me, and it really brings the planet closer to you. It's great.
It does, and there's nothing like taking your Halo Pelican and hover over your own street in Munich. I can just recommend that. So the important question, of course, when will fans be able to hop into the cockpit to take off with the 40th anniversary edition?
Yeah, I mean, so the 40th anniversary edition is releasing on November 11th, so that's 3 months from now. It's a full box of chocolate. So we talked about some planes, so it has 12 new planes, it has 14 heliports, 10 glider airports, it has 4 classic airports we didn't really ever talk about yet. Like, Flight Sim always used to start in Chicago on Meigs Field. That airport closed. We didn't have it in our original sim. Now we have it. There's others coming. There's new missions. We're bringing missions back from the old sim. So I think it's a true celebration of the franchise. And just in case people don't know, the 40th anniversary edition is in fact free. for people who are on Xbox, on Game Pass, and who already own Flight Sim.
Well, I love celebrations. I love everything that is free. So I can't wait to hit the skies with this 40th anniversary edition of Flight Simulator. Thank you so much, Jörg.
Thank you
so much, Sebastian, for coming here. And as you always say at the end of your trailers, the sky is calling.
Yeah, see you in the skies.